Multitasking is a skill required for any leader. Some people excel in that and they become successful. Today, as part of leadership series by Global TV, we have one such leader who finds it very easy to multitasking. Kochery Shibu. Welcome to our discussions on Global TV on leadership.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you.
Mr. Shibu is currently the Managing Director of GSPR India Private Limited, a company with an objective to bring water to Bengaluru. He is also the CEO of a shipping company. He has worked as director and country head of Hydrec. He was the CEO of Pioneer Genco, a hydroelectric power project. He is a commanding officer from the Indian Navy and he is also an author of 2 best-selling novels. Thank you, Shibu, for being with us today. I'm sure your words of wisdom on leadership will enlighten our audience.
Thank you so much, Tom. Yes, definitely. I don't know the enlightening part, but definitely we have a lot of things to say.
Now, Shibu, as you know, leaders gain leadership sometimes at a very early age. Some people gain it as you grow in your career or in the organizations you work. So what has been your experience? Did you show leadership qualities at an early age or you built it up as you grew in your career?
It's a very interesting question because leadership in itself has got so many definitions depending on whom you talk to and what they write about and in what domain they have been in. But, when I joined the National Defense Academy way back in 1978, I mean, that institution is called Cradle for Leadership. So leadership was kind of, drilled into you for about 3 years.
Okay.
And every aspect of it, as far as the setting of the framework is concerned. But as you grow in service, you put it into practice. So in the training at the National Defense Academy is primarily and focused on making leaders of men. And that's a job requirement of the armed forces. And as you move forward, you put those things into practice. And as a naval officer in the career, at every stage, you're always in charge of some men, in charge of some task, and you're always the leadership role, always.
Okay.
The challenge, of course, is when you talk, the people look up to you. What I irrespective of the definitions that are there existing in various places, I just go by one simple approach to any leadership issue to say that as a leader, you should have clarity in your mind and you should have confidence in what you do. These 2 things are mandatory. Okay. You should be clear what you're trying to do and you should be confident of doing what you're doing. That's the basics.
Okay.
And in the military, they say that, there's a very golden saying which says that if you are afraid, don't do it. If you do it, then don't be afraid.
Okay.
Now, this to the people outside may not make much sense, but it has got a lot of meaning. What you say?
Okay. Okay.
So, their leadership, as to give an example, like I remember way back in 2002-3 time when the tension between India and Pakistan had mounted and we were almost gone to a second war after Kargil. There was an event called Operation Parakram when the Pakistan had mobilized their armed forces, India had mobilized their armed forces, and it was a very kind of standoff and it could have taken off any time.
Okay.
So when this event took place, I was on a ship called Rana and then Visakhapatnam, and the ship was just entered the dry dock for what you call a maintenance repair. From there, we are told you have to load ammunition, get ready, and sail from there and join the Western Fleet in a matter of 10 days. Oh. Normally, an event which should have taken place in 3 months. So then, of course, it's unbelievable kind of the efforts where people put in, and you take the ship out in 3 days, and you take up your ammunition, take up stores, take up whatever you're required to do, and then you're sailing from there. In that 6-7 days time, you have to get people to be combat ready. Okay. And then when you reach, of course, then we were in all our the Arabian Sea. We were going off Karachi, coming back, and it went on for about a month before
Right.
the situation is eased out.
Right.
So in situations like this, when you come up, that was the military part of it. That when you say people look up to you to say that your warship just it's like uh, just pulled out of the ongoing repair and to prepare, go to
Mhm.
war, get your systems ready, and then men are doing 12 hours and 12 hours of continuously,
Right.
so that the war tempo sets in, and of course the people always it's like they say in boxing. For those who are familiar with it, will know that when you waiting just before you enter the ring, when your
Yeah.
boxing bout has not started, that is
Right.
far more tense than being in that ring and actually boxing. Because when you're in
Mhm.
the ring and boxing, you're busy boxing,
Right.
and when you're sitting outside, it's you're worrying and thinking, and you're
So,
always thinking about so many things.
right. So, can I say that your leadership skills build up during your formative years in the National Defense Academy? That was one of
Of course,
the.
yes,
Uh,
that is it kind of the grooming ground. Yes, of course.
okay. Okay. But I'm sure, as a early childhood, also you would have shown some sort of leadership qualities. You can remember anything like you were put as a monitor in a class, or even when you are see, because generally, people have many people I've come across. They say, "Oh, I was yes, I was in the first standard. I was a class monitor." Then all those things. Is there any childhood memories you have?
Of course, of course. I mean, but then I would say that the when I think back about the Loyola school days, it is more about somehow I don't know, the passion had gone into me that you should take up writing. Of course,
Ah,
those
okay.
days I used to think about writing in Malayalam.
Ah, ah, ah,
But
ah.
once you joined the armed forces and the National Defense Academy, and you shifted over to English and Hindi, oh,
Okay.
so your Malayalam reading and Malayalam writing kind of froze in time. So that's why I finally ended up writing an English novel and not Malayalam, what I'd originally planned. So even in school days, when especially I'm telling the level of school time, maybe our environment in the hostel and the merit scholars,
Yeah.
the creative environment, it was very conducive to, let's say, creative art or thinking about writing or that stuff. So
So
there,
you.
yes, definitely it was more kind of mind was into more about writing than anything else.
So
But
I
as I
would
say,
say that your leadership was in creative world, creative. You thought writing is your forte, so you spend more time around that.
yes, that I did. I did a lot of time reading, imagining. I
Yes.
never thought it will take me 40 years before I may publish my first book, but it was there then. And it stayed with me all through.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can I say that in the armed forces in the Indian Navy, did your leadership style change at any time, or it was been same, or you go by what is your formative style in the naval training programs?
It does evolve. Definitely, it evolves over a period of time because it has got two aspects. One is, at the junior levels, it's let's say, it's purely more oriented towards combat preparedness and, let's say, the combat effectiveness and
Okay,
that aspect. So, wherein you're leading men, and, like they say, battles are fought and won in the minds of people.
okay,
So, unless you can win a battle in your mind, you can never win it on ground.
that is
So,
interesting.
that's a very so a lot of the time people mistake that armed forces for chowkidari. Chowkidari is
Mm-hmm.
okay. Many people, even many of the unfortunately, even many of those brilliant guys from the civil counterpart who might talk to, they say that you're standing there, like a chowkidar guarding the border. Then I said, you don't need
Yeah,
armed forces for that. You should have put some security centers. Why do you need armed forces?
right,
So
right,
the armed forces goes far, far beyond that. That's why I said, so
right.
the let's say at any stage, and so it's unbelievable. So to give an example, let's say a new thing like when the telecom technology first came into the country.
Right.
So then the next question is what the armed forces says is that, so what can change with that, let's say, the telecom technology, and
Right.
therefore what we need to do. So even before the
Mm-hmm.
telecom technologies come in, you're reading, writing, and thinking about what could happen. And same thing when the computer took place, the revolution took place. What are the problems? What are the challenges? So you have to be always at the cutting edge of technology.
Right.
Physically, the country may not have it, but mentally you have to be there. You
Right.
have to be at par with whatever is happening in the world and right on top.
Right.
Otherwise, you will get left behind. And there is nothing more terrible than a dated mind.
Hmm.
So
So
in this line,
it may be also true for any leadership. Any leadership is a battle by itself. So we can say that battles are won in the mind first,
of
then on the
of
field.
course,
Whether it is in
yes,
business, whether it is in politics, any field of leadership, I think it's true.
that is true, very true,
Yeah, because we are
absolutely
facing
true. I
competition
mean,
in the corporate world, which is also like a
yes,
battle only.
yeah, it is a battle, but there's a difference. And the thing is,
Yeah.
to give you an example, like armed forces has got the difference between, let's say, armed forces and the police or the paramilitary forces, that armed forces is governed by the Army Act, the Navy Act, and the Air Force Act, by which
Okay.
if you show cowardice in the face of enemy, you can be court-martialed and shot dead.
Okay.
Now, this is the peculiarity of the armed forces, wherein your soldier is more scared about your own general than the enemy's general. Okay, now this is the way. That means the armed forces gives an option. Is that's why they say also yours is
Yeah.
not a question why, yours is but to do or die. So the option is only one way: you fight
Okay.
and win. If you otherwise you
Okay.
die.
Okay.
So those extremes do not come into such kind of extremes does not come into the other
The
line,
civilian life.
which is
Okay.
all. It is no. I mean, there's no loss of life that you plan.
Right.
There will be loss of wealth. There will be loss of maybe reputation. There will be loss of so many other things, but it
Right.
doesn't directly require you to lose your life. So
Right.
leadership here, to that extent, takes a different turn. To that extent, so it's something like saying, how do I put it? If I were to give a comparison, risk taking of life, physical risk taking of life, is not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
So a business leader may be willing to invest, let's say, $100 million, but you ask him to, risk his one finger, he will not do it.
You're
Forget
right.
about life. He will
You're
not do
right.
it. So,
Yeah.
so that is so that to that extent. So the military and the corporate part, stands kind of separated.
Very
But
nice.
having said that, all the qualities of leadership which are required in the military is also required in the corporate, and what is required in the corporate is also required in the military.
Right.
And the second thing is, there's a saying: behavior of an individual is a reflection of his value system.
Okay.
So now, the Indian Armed Forces, there is a value system which is created, which is built up from the day you are in National Defense Academy to your rest of the training establishments, and through your whole life. That
Okay.
your whole purpose of life is that, to say that anytime then, when you talk standard, when they talk also, they say, Samne 12 baje dushman. So it's always, we are very clear that, it is, you're fighting an enemy, nobody else.
Okay.
And second is to say that, let's say you're in any of your thought process, what you do or what you prepare to do will always think about a combat situation and what it can do to win that battle for your country.
Right.
So, and you always, and it is not, see, I mean, if I were to put it very crudely, see,
Yeah.
there are paid mercenaries also, like Pakistan uses to go and fight their battles.
Right.
And even if you read history, let's say in your first war of independence, the Britishers used Afghan mercenaries to fight against, let's say, the first revolution, the first freedom
Right.
fight struggle of 1857.
Yeah.
So mercenaries in battle, the Americans use them extensively in various places. Mercenaries in battle is purely, it's like a shade better than being, let's say, a gangster, wherein you're fighting for money purely. Go and kill somebody for money, fight with someone for money.
Right.
But armed forces, it doesn't work on that. You're working that, you're very clear in your mind that you are doing this for your people and all the people. You don't have
Right.
any affiliation to anybody, ABCD. So,
Right.
and it is that sense of righteousness which gives you that moral courage.
Hmm.
Because you feel that, if you do not do this, your country is going to go apart, and therefore, even if it costs your life, so be it.
Right.
So that's a kind of value system which is built in and which is brought in. So it is always based on ethics. It is based on value system, wherein you have to trust each other to, when you are in combat situation with each other's life. in many times.
Right.
So this kind of value system may not really work in corporate, because in corporates, like the Americans say, that make your wealth first and then bring in the ethics afterwards. That
Anyway,
means
it's a very
your
interesting thought, but I think it's a fact of life, especially
yeah.
in the current corporate. I think we cannot generalize, but then yes, that is a dictum which is followed currently by most of the corporates, I presume. So coming back to your, is there any person you can think of who has influenced your leadership at any point of time?
Oh, not one. As
Oh,
a matter of fact, no, the thing is, the one of the things about, let's say, it has got, I'll say, two sides. There is a
right,
leadership which was there, let's say, when I was in the armed forces. There's one type of leadership when you come outside.
right.
So let's say to come outside, when I come outside, I joined hydroelectric projects, and I was, executing hydroelectric projects end to end. Let's say in very some tough areas, in the sense we
Mhm.
worked in Kaveri River Basin, which was malaria prone, and your
Okay,
work environment is generally risk prone. Generally,
okay.
so there the thing is that there are what people expect you as a leader when you're working in this kind of a project environment is they expect you to do as you say and say as you do. And as far as they are concerned, if you do that much, you're a great leader, because
Mhm.
that seems to be almost the like you said, maybe the corporate culture has got corrupted, that each one you say whatever is convenient to suit that point in time what you speak.
Right.
So they found it very different that here comes a guy who says who says what he does and does what he says. It took them
Mhm.
some time to adjust, and then it made a phenomenal difference, because then the whole work environment becomes straightforward.
Right.
Wherein you say that this you're the company and you're the contractor, or maybe hundreds of workers are working for you. So
Yep.
once they are clear that this is what the leader wants, and once he says something, it will be done, and if he says no, it will not be done. Then
Mhm.
that changes the environment. Of course, it creates a lot of unpleasantness initially, because
Right.
there will be a lot of wrangling for money and things like that. That's one part. Second is in projects when things go wrong.
Yes.
The so that in the armed forces, you do something called a systems approach to any kind of weapon system that you have.
Okay.
The systems approach means you think it end to end. That means, let's say, if I'm deploying a weapon system, let's say I used to be a anti-submarine warfare specialist. So
Yeah.
let's say I'm the my target is a Chinese submarine or a Pakistani submarine or American submarine, Russian submarine, any submarine. It comes your way, you should be able to fight it. So then
Yeah.
when you talk about your technology that you have, how you want to deploy it, and therefore what is that he could do, and where is a meeting point wherein you feel that you have a chance to win. And there is a
Okay.
fair amount of risk in that game, because uh, it could be, it's like in boxing there is never that in only one guy wins without getting hit. In boxing it's
Yeah.
a boxing match, so both sides will get hit. That someone who fights better wins. So
Mhm.
when it comes to the project life, it takes a little turn in the sense that in the systems thinking, if you go wrong or someone has not applied his mind enough, then
Right.
then when things go wrong, then people are not able to comprehend, and it can really go wrong drastically.
Okay.
So to give an example, just there was a project called Sorang hydroelectric project in Himachal Pradesh, a 100 megawatt project.
Yeah.
So it was being done by one of the Indian promoters, and who at some point wanted some partners, so they uh, entered into partnership with one of those Saudi investment firms who brought in money towards the end of the project.
Hmm.
And towards the end of the project, then there was a tussle between them, and the owner was not completing the project, so they decided to take over the project themselves.
Hmm.
So when they took over the project and you started the project, they had some, the water pipeline in this is called a penstock, and they had a penstock burst. Penstock, leak actually, not a burst, leak, wherein the pipe was
Okay.
cracking and water was leaking.
Okay.
So then they said, okay, your own promoter and the consultant or the technical consultants employed by the promoter is not good enough. Throw them out. I'll
Hmm.
get international consultants.
Hmm.
So he brings in the international consultants, and they do the whole thing again.
Oh.
And it took them another 1 year, and they tried again. This time there was a full-fledged penstock burst. and all the water came down and washed away 2, 3 villages, 30, 40 people got killed.
Oh my God.
And of course, no, that project cannot go again. So all the money is wasted. Now, the whole question is that, that the people who are into the hydropower projects will know that what possible mistake they have done. But once is okay. But second time, if you are not able to think through, so a lot of the time, this is where again the leadership the thing comes in the side means when in projects where it can be, this is where the sometimes some of these infrastructure projects, when things go wrong, it can be
Right.
far more risky than military because it takes lives and number of them.
Okay.
The project getting killed
So,
is one side.
yeah. So you are saying that as a leader, I think it goes without saying, you walk the talk. That really sells with your team.
Of course, it does. It does.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
nothing sells better than that. As in the outside when you come, and then of course the military nature helps in the sense that sometimes
Absolutely. Absolutely.
when I was handling the project in Sikkim, we were doing
Yeah.
100 megawatt project. So it had a tunnel which was 7 kilometer long and 7 meter in dia. And when I joined them, they were in a crisis.
Okay.
The crisis was it's called a squeezing of the hill. That means
Mm.
the geology of the hill was such that when they had excavated and made a tunnel and it's not supported properly, the hill started squeezing and the tunnel started squeezing.
Oh.
So in sections, the tunnel had just started from 7 meter, it became 6.9, 6.8, 6.7. It was going on like that.
Mm.
So that's the stage now. They didn't know what to do and they thought maybe the project is gone. So that's the
Right.
time they called me in. That's when this Hydrec called me in and I joined them and went there and the first challenge was that the engineers they were too scared to walk in the tunnel and work with the workers.
Okay.
So then I asked him why. He said, "Sir, tunnel गिर गया तो बीवी बच्चा है क्या करेगा?" so I told him, tunnel cannot just fall like that. How can it fall like that? Your workers are inside. So
Yeah.
those fellows are. So then they say those fellows are tunnel guys. They know what to do, but I am not. I am not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I called one of the cab. I said, "Okay, yeah, I am walking with you.
Let's
Let's see
go.
let's go. What collapses."
Mm.
So every day I used to walk the tunnel with one of the engineers and go to the workers and find areas. And all that required was someone to understand the risk, stand with them,
Yeah.
and tell them what to do and how to do and support them.
Yes.
But there is a risk to you as an individual because if things go wrong, you'll get buried in the bloody tunnel.
Yeah. End of the day,
So
but you have to show it.
yeah, of course. I mean, see, that's a leader when you come. That means if you think that it is safe enough for you to go,
Yeah.
people have no problems in working with you. Absolutely no problem. But if you sit in the
Right.
armchair and say, guys, do it, and I'll
Go.
sit here, the answer is no.
Mm. I think your
So,
training in the armed forces would have really helped you in this.
oh, yes, yes, yes. I mean, this is what we call chicken feed in our side. But when you come here, the stakes are different because stakes are different in
Right.
the sense it's all commercial. Nobody
Yeah.
wants you to risk your life and nobody wants to risk their life. Not meant to be.
Right. Right.
So nobody wants
So,
to risk your life for commercial reasons. So that's the reason.
so you have actually answered the next question I had. That one of
Uh,
the most challenging incidents you have faced in your leadership journey. Is there anything more you want to add to this?
Yeah, of course. The let's say this is it had both these cases that I had worked on a project in Himachal also which had a tunnel. There, of
Okay.
course, against my advice, the civil engineers, the designers would not listen to me. Then they went ahead and scheme went wrong. It was just lucky that we didn't have a tunnel burst.
Okay.
There it was only that that the people didn't listen to my advice, so they lost about 14 crores. So we had to redo the whole thing in tunnel and line and pipe again. But there he got it right by
Okay.
spending some more money, but there were no loss of life. But
Mm-hmm.
even there, the same thing is many of the times, like I keep telling. That's why I said when I started saying leadership is all about having clarity of thought and confidence.
Right.
If you have clarity of thought, not in details, you don't need to be an engineer, but your first principle should be clear.
Right.
Any project life, any work outside, in your first principles, if you are clear in your mind, then your things fall into place because any amount of waffling in technical details will not help. The first principles are not correctly addressed.
Right. So actually your value systems drives your leadership. That's what you are saying.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Because, like you said, if you cannot walk the talk and if you cannot do as you say and see as you do, oh, then life becomes difficult. You cannot be one man in one situation and change up, be a different man in different situation.
Right.
Then you are what you call, then you are the traditional. There are so many words for such people, but okay, it's not called for.
Nice. Now you are donning multiple roles at the same time. You are an author, you are a consultant, you are also managing a business, and you are trying to do something which is very basic to the society. That is like trying to bring water to Bengaluru for a long term. So how do you manage all these multiple roles at the same time?
Writing has always remained with me, and it's a passion. So normally, what people say, especially in the project life, the first book I wrote was when I was
Yeah,
working on a Himachal project.
yeah.
So every day I used to take about 2 to 3 hours after work, and
Okay.
it just so happened that there we are working in the kind of edge of civilization, and they made a kind of building which was, in the night I used to be the only guy, and one security chap will stay 500 meters away,
Okay.
and there was a little amount of wildlife which used to roam around there. They called it is called the cheetahs are called bag in that area. And so there's a
Okay.
bag nala, and you shut down yourself and it's down the evening, and fantastic. You listen to the river and some of the wildlife howling, and you start writing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
writing has been possibly, so the more intense your work is, I find that much more passionate your writing can be. So writing has
Okay.
been with me.
Right.
Took me about 4 years and about 3,600 man writing hours to complete the first book.
Okay.
And about 80% of the time goes in research in what you're
In
writing.
research.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
research. Because that when you write a novel, even though it's a fiction novel, each of the items, when you write, where you write, what you write, and what you talk, you should be sure that what you're writing correlates with what you're saying. Otherwise, it's called shallow writing.
Right.
And the second book was, of course, during the COVID period when you got a break, when you could not move out, you're locked in your house. Best time to write. You could write my second book. So
Okay.
writing has always been with me. So there is no extra effort in it for me. So anytime you feel like what I do is that, when I travel or when I watch a television or read a newspaper, anything that is of interest, sometimes you meet some people, as an author, the most important part is being observant and very observant.
Okay.
So it's like to give you an example, for example, let's say when I'm walking, if I see a friend walking in ahead of me, even though
Right.
I cannot see his face, just the way he walks or she walks can make out this is so and so. So there is a certain trait to that person which you're familiar with, though you cannot see his face, but for certain it is Tom or it's
That's true.
Jagdish Warrior or somebody else. Now
Yes. Yes.
there'll be something about the way he walks, maybe drags his left foot a little, right arm goes a particular way, and holds his head in a certain way. These are the things as an author which you need to observe. It takes some time. You used to go to a
Okay.
restaurant and observe people, and so I used to make character sketching, and that I've been doing for last so
Oh.
many years now, almost 12, 15 years. Ever since I left the armed forces. Inside armed forces, of course, I have not done this. So after I
Right.
left, you observe wherever I'm traveling, whether you're traveling abroad, traveling in India, in a bus, in a flight. So and sometimes you speak to people, or sometimes you read about people. So like for example, some of the things like I don't know, there was a traditionally there was a case. I don't know, in 2009 there was a case of a girl in UP
Okay.
who had, with the help of a lover, killed her parents and two brothers and sisters-in-law and a small child, all because the parents went against their marriage.
Oh
And
my
when
God.
this news, yeah, when this news came about in the media, I said, "This is absolutely not. This girl is being set up. There'll be a story that's something else must be there to it." I didn't believe it. I said, "Then I now believe that an Indian girl can do this, something like killing her parents and killing her brothers and sisters-in-law and all that. She'll now do it."
Hmm.
And that too, she is a double postgraduate.
Okay.
Not that she's one of those, lesson education kind of girls. So this, as it went on, and by the time it took about 4, 5 years, and you read, I realized that it was actually this girl, for whatever reason, that sedated this whole family, and her lover had axed them to death. So
Oh.
she's now right now she's on the death row, and the son from the relationship is already 12 or 13 years old. Now, let's say, as an author, you keep writing, capturing this kind of odd events when people go to extreme, which you cannot even imagine. But why would somebody do like that?
Hmm.
Why would a daughter who's like this do something So as an author, you are a lot of the times, capturing this kind of odd events that happens. Maybe it comes in news, maybe it comes in
Yeah.
newspaper. Maybe you meet some people, may read. Yeah. And of course, when you're working in hydroelectric projects, each guy will have a story from where he has come to tell. So it's a kind of huge collection of
Okay.
character sketching. And then of course, when you're writing, you mix and match. The second
Mm-hmm.
book when I wrote, I had some 200 characters whom I had sketched, out of which you took out 7, 8 of them, and then you finish off the novel.
Okay.
So
So
that
does
writing part, your work and whatever you do supports the writing business.
hmm So my question is, does
Uh,
this character sketching or observation help you in your leadership journey?
it does. It does.
Okay.
So a lot of the times, what I say is again, I said, how it does is that you're very often, let's say in leadership roles when you're playing, and especially now I'm from the corporate side.
Right.
In the corporate, there are no enemies. I mean,
Yeah,
it's always maybe maximum we can call it a competitor.
that's true.
So, but when you deal with people in all business deals, there is always a Mahabharata in the background.
Absolutely. You're right.
That means you try to create a situation wherein you are able to negotiate from a position of strength.
Yeah.
So this calls for understanding the people whom you deal with, and far more important than anything else.
Yeah.
Because as the saying goes, knowing you is knowing how. So if
Right.
you know the man, then you know what of course, if there is a backroom strategist whom you have not met, of course, then you may be caught by surprise. But invariably in business deals, if you meet people, you know the people,
Yeah.
that those who walk the talk and those who
Yes.
are, soothsayers and those who are, do lip service and a lot of sugar outside, but, still inside. So if you can, when you get to see the people and you form an opinion, this is going to be very
Absolutely.
hard. This guy is not going to abide by anything that he says. He'll keep changing goalposts and keep changing colors. So the power of observation and the way you deal is easy because if you know the man, you can
Yeah.
clearly define the lines by which you can work with him.
Okay.
So
So
a lot of the
your
people want
so your role as an author has really helped in your leadership journey.
it does definitely it has value added definitely.
Okay. Great. Now, just a question. See, some people enjoy being a leader. Some people find it very cumbersome. Like it's not something which they really enjoy. What has been your experience as a leader?
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be a leader, no? I mean that's what life is all about. That's but
Anyway,
I repeat myself again. So anything that you take up,
yeah,
see, like it is like telling the prime minister of the country need not have billions of dollars in his pocket, nor does he have to have any technical expertise to on any subject. All it requires is leadership
right,
to listen to people, and you must have the judgment and to whom to listen to and what to listen to.
right,
So in leadership roles, definitely. I mean that the this part is if you do not have the confidence, you cannot be. And if you do not have that, let's say the mental uh, latitude to have clarity in your mind, even if you are difficult for you, both are required.
right.
But if you have these two, then of course, being a leader is possibly the thing that you'll enjoy most. Because the
Okay,
challenges come to you, problems come to you, the solution also
yeah.
lies with you.
Is there any single quality you can say a leader should have?
Integrity.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Okay, that is very interesting because you're not the first person to say that. Whichever interviews I have done or discussions I have done, most of the people have come out as this as one of the most critical factors in a leader's qualities. But do you think that today there are a lot of leaders without integrity also still they manage to be leaders? This is a question not directly, but I felt I should ask this question.
Yeah, I will say that, it's the question is when, that integrity is not something which is normally what people say is, it is not something which I can put 60% and 80%.
Okay.
Now, what people in the business field is, in many of the leaders whom I have seen, they do this. So, depending on the situation, 60% integrity is okay, 80% integrity is okay. I said that doesn't work like that.
Right.
Either you have integrity or you don't. But then the challenge is, those who are clear in their mind when they work with integrity, then they also work with a whole lot of detailing so that once they commit, it's on a framework which is clearly defined and clearly understood.
Right.
So then there are many whom I have found, that who really do not measure up, who think that, okay, so I don't need 100% here, I can be 80% here, 60% here, 40% here, 20% here. So their way of saying is that if I am dealing with, let's say, their logic is something else.
Right.
Their logic, what they say is, if somebody is a man who's known for his integrity, you also deal him with that 100% integrity.
Right.
But if someone is a crook and you know that fellow is a crook, why should I deal him with 100% integrity? It doesn't work.
Right.
So the challenge is there is some truth in what they're saying, because finally it is easier if you match. That means you play on same levels. Either he comes to your level or you go to his level.
Right.
So then the other side is for people who understood integrity correctly. Even when you're dealing with a crook, there is a way of defining parameters that limits the crook's ability to go beyond a point, and within which you define within the defined terms, you can be 100%. There's no challenge, but it requires clarity. It requires clarity of thinking to achieve that. Right. Otherwise, many of the people, take a reputation. This guy has a reputation of being this. So when you're dealing with him, this is okay.
Right.
So they put a scale of index and say integrity is. If you're dealing with Tatas, it's 100%. If you're reading somebody else, this much. With this fellow, 0. But okay, I am not in favor of that. They have their reasoning when you speak to them.
Yeah.
They say that you match with the other guys. If a guy is 100% integrity, also 100%. I have no problem.
Right. So it's like saying, just put it in very simple terms. What you commit, what you deliver is, I will say in simple terms, what integrity is all about. Especially in the business.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Right. So one last question, Shibu, is if you have to give two advices to the youngsters who are aspiring leaders, what would that be?
I said, do as you say and say as you do, and you lead your life. That's the beginning, I'll say. Because this, forget about that means in your normal life, do as you say and say as you do. Right. That will give an idea of tempering your mind to know what it takes to be a leader.
Okay.
So if you practice this in your normal life, forget about even before you're employed, as a student,
right.
as a family member, as whichever the first job that you go to.
Okay.
It will require a lot of effort to do this and work. If you can temper your mind, you can handle it, then yes, that will be the best grooming you can do to become a leader.
Right. I think it has been interesting discussions we had at different aspects of your leadership journey as an author, as a business leader, and also in the Navy. So thank you so much for your time. I'm sure the listeners would definitely benefit from these discussions, what we had.